afternoon, live from Toronto on the Gbkm network. This is the Chat Up Show, the show where we catch you up with a chat up of our weekly headlines. I'm your host, Elizabeth Aloyde, and I hope that you are ready to chat it up with me today. Now, as always, you know you can keep up with the Gbkm network in various ways. You can continue to listen and watch live 24/7 at www.gbkm.tv or www.gbkm.fm, where you can also like, share, comment, all that good stuff, catch up on any past shows you may have missed, check out our upcoming show schedule so you don't miss out on another show again. You can also download our free app that's available for all iOS and Android devices. This is just search the Gbkm app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. You will get the same features as on our live digital web radio station on the app. So you can watch live, listen live, comment, like, share, check out past shows, upcoming shows, all of that. Plus with the app, turn on your notifications and you will be notified every time we go live. So every time we're live on the Gbkm network, you will know and you won't have to miss out. And the best part is you can take us on the go as well. So make sure you download the free app today. You can also continue to watch us on Facebook and YouTube at Gbkm Network. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Gbkm Network to keep up with what's going on with us right here at Gbkm. Now, welcome to another week on the Chat Up Show, and I'm so excited to welcome a very special guest in studio today, a founder of Imani's Place and Imani Foundation, Lisa Obole. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you feeling today? I'm loving the yellow.
Oh, I feel good.
Good.
This is a great warm environment. I like
We're glad with that. So, I want to talk about Imani's Place first of all, and then going into the foundation. So you started this in 2019.
Correct.
And can you take us through what really inspired you to start this project within your foundation?
Imani's Place for me is something very special. And it's special because I am a victim of domestic violence. I was in an abusive relationship for 8 good years, and throughout this time I lost a lot of my self-confidence, my self-esteem. I never thought that I would amount to anything, and during that time I didn't have any contact with anyone, because if you know what abusers do, they cut all your ties with your family, with your friends. I was isolated. And I was going through a lot of pain and torture. So I didn't even know the shelter system existed because nobody told me. So when I was going through this, I just had myself and God, because I'm a believer. I'm a believer of God, and I always prayed and thought that one day when I'm able to get out of this situation, I'm going to help women like. So in 2019, I was fortunate to get a property, and I decided to use it to help women. So at Imani's Place, we welcome, women, youth that are escaping domestic violence or human trafficking, and we help them by first providing a safe place for them. We help them through, the trauma that they've been through by providing counseling services, one-on-one counseling, group counseling. Then we also help them grow by providing life skills training. Because when you are in an abusive relationship and you're dependent on your partner, you don't know what money is. Because all the money that you make, you're giving it to them. So you would not know how to budget. You would not know how to save, because everything that comes in goes right out. So we teach them financial management. We also, teach them cooking skills, teach them how to be good tenants, because the ultimate goal is for them to be able to integrate back into society and move into their own permanent housing. So we help them with the housing application as well. We help them with, job search, resume building, because we want them to get back to work. So this is what we do at Imani's Place, and so far we've been able to see a lot of women through the house.
Wow. That's, so I want to touch on something that you said, is that the financial part of it, relearning how to be financially independent, which I think for a lot of people is something that we wish we received that education, and especially for a lot of people that end up in relationships where there is one person who is managing all the finances, and then you get out of that relationship and you're like lost and you're not sure how to handle yourself, and then on top of that you're dealing with trauma.
Yes.
And having to heal from that trauma in itself.
Yeah.
And then how do you instill a confidence within yourself to say like, okay, this is something that I can do. I can get up and be independent again. Like, I don't necessarily need to be in this relationship anymore. Because that's like a process in and of itself to like just accept like, okay,
It's true.
I can help myself as well and get the help that I need.
So for me, I think people get to a breaking point in every situation. There's that time where you know for yourself that I have to leave or I'm going to die. According to the statistics in Canada, every 6 days a woman dies of domestic violence. Right? So, and you know, you see for yourself the things that you're going through. You're not happy. You don't have money. You're constantly being abused emotionally, physically, right? So there's gonna come a point if you are lucky enough to find people that would talk you out of that relationship. That's one way. But I just feel like, for me especially, it came to a point where I'm like, you know, Lisa, if you do not leave the situation, you're gonna die. So that was the wake-up call for me. Right. And I actually also met someone who's my husband now that gave me the strength to leave. And I'm glad I listened to him because I could have been a statistic.
I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you. Every 6 days.
And these are intimate partners that are doing, you know, abusing their partners. It's not like people that are far away from you. People who are really close to you. The same people who are supposed to support you, to protect you. So that's why it gets, you know, it's really sensitive. You know, and some people will be like, why don't you just leave? It's so hard to leave because you've invested so much into this relationship, your heart, your soul, your money, your time, you know? Yeah. And what happens is a cycle, right? When the abuser abuses you, they're going to come back the next minute begging you and even buy you gifts and promise never to do it again. And you being the lovely person that you are, you trust them again. You forgive them, you give them another chance because you also want the best for this person. And then they do it all over again. The cycle begins.
It's like the cycle of like a narcissistic partner. Like they love bomb you, and then once they feel that, you know, they have you hooked, then maybe they'll let it slip a little, the more narcissistic dark side of things, and then it's back to the oh I'm sorry and love bombing phase again. So there's that cycle of love and then hurt.
That's exactly what they are. Most abusers are narcissists.
So you brought up something like that usually people on the outside of the relationship will say is like, why don't you just leave? That isn't always the most supportive thing someone's going through abuse wants to hear from, you know, the people that they aren't yet isolated from and who are still seeing some signs and noticing that they're unhappy. So how would you suggest supporting survivors of abuse even after they've, you know, gone through your shelter, been at Imani's place and gotten the training or the life skills and the help to get back on their feet? How do you then reintegrate back into your social community as well?
So how you can help them is to listen to them. Don't be judgmental. You've never been there. You don't know what it is. So take away all the judgments and try to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're able to meet them where they are, because most of them have trust issues now, remember? So if you're able to meet them where they are, then they can start to listen to you.
Right.
Right? And that way you can start to instill some of this, good qualities back into them. You can start to encourage them in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I think the biggest thing is judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wear the shoe, I know where it pinches me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there. Don't tell me, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. No, because at the time that I did what I did, it was the best thing for me to do, was the best decision at that time. Right?
Yeah.
So I believe the first thing, don't be judgmental, listen to them, understand them, put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you're going to understand them better. Right? Because I can tell you, somebody hit me, and if I tell you someone hit me and you're like, oh, that happened, you're not helping me.
Yeah.
I'd rather you want to ask me more questions. Like, first you want to know that I'm okay. And then you want to dig deeper to say, oh, what happened? Like, are you comfortable telling me what happened between you and this guy that hit you? And if you're not comfortable, that's fine.
Yeah.
And you just encourage them in other ways.
Yeah.
And most especially if you're religious, you can pray with them or give them scriptures that can help them.
Yeah. On that note, we're just going to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned. When we're back, we're going to continue our discussion on protecting and supporting Black women going through domestic violence and abuse. Stay tuned. Do you want to be your own boss and make income or extra income with flexible schedule? Welcome to Gbkm Courier. Gbkm Courier works as a marketplace platform connecting customers who need something delivered with drivers that are willing to serve them. Courier with any vehicle, better trip allocation, and cash out your earnings whenever you want. Download our driver apps today to sign up. Do you want to be your own boss and make income or extra income with flexible schedule? Welcome to Gbkm Courier. Gbkm Courier works as a marketplace platform connecting customers who need something. Hello and welcome back to the Chat Up Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Oloidi, and today I'm joined here by Lisa Oborle, founder of Imani's Place, part of the Imani Foundation. So before we went on the break, we were kind of talking about how those outside of abusive relationships or dealing with the actual abuse, the friends or family, how they can support someone who's going through this tough time. Now, with Imani's Place, you also work with those trying to escape and run away or get out of human trafficking situations as well. Was that always part of the plan for the project, or was that just something you noticed while working with domestic violence survivors that this was also needed?
I would say it's part of the project because I am originally from Nigeria and I'm from Edo State. Right. And in my state, there's been a lot of human trafficking that has happened with people moving from Edo State to Italy to, make money through prostitution. And I was thinking, what would be the best way to help these women get back on their feet? What would be the best way? Because again, if you're being trafficked, because most of them were being lied to, right? Like someone would tell you, oh, you're so pretty, I would bring you to Italy, for instance, and I would get you a job at the salon or at the tomato farm. And when you get to Italy, that's what to go there to see. When you get there, they put you into road work and, prostitution. So I think a lot of trauma comes with that too, right? Especially you find yourself in a foreign country, no family, no friends, and you're just at the mercy of whoever sponsored you, right? So that way, in order for you to survive, you have to just do what they ask you to do, right? So I felt like Imani's Place would be a safe haven for those kind of people to even come to get support, right? To, deal with their trauma, right? Because unresolved trauma can, lead to different kind of illnesses in the future, mental health issues as well. So this program would help them to get healed through the counseling programs that we have, we do workshops, you know, self-care workshops, trauma-informed workshops, so that these ladies would find a new path for themselves, right? Even through our, you know, employment services that we offer, then they can leave behind those years and face a new lease of life where they're able to become who they really want to be.
Yeah. Wow. It's like the more you hear about the things people go through and deal with, and the more trauma there is that's, you know, out in this world that's being inflicted on innocent people who are just either, as you said, looking for a better opportunity in life, and then they're taken advantage of. It's heavy hearing those stories, and heavy being a part of the healing process sometimes. How do you find like you can protect yourselves and even volunteers that are working within the project as well to, you know, not take on all that trauma, because it could get a lot and heavy for you and triggering even.
Yes, so when you work in this field, you already know what you signed up for. It's like telling a military man not to go to war, right? So, you know, we know what we signed up for, but we also try to practice self-care.
Yeah.
That's very important, because you're going to hear stories that will make you cry on a daily basis, right? So just being able to also have boundaries, knowing where to draw the line for yourself as a worker is a good way to protect yourself, because we're in this to do it. We're in this to protect the women. We're in this to help them heal, right? And so we cannot show any weakness in front of them, but we have to be strong and hold their hand throughout the journey. So self-care and taking time off, just to go recuperate and come back, you know, it's a good way that we handle issues like that.
That's true. Because I mean, like, if you're trying to support someone else, you know, you want to make sure you're supporting yourself too, because you can't take on someone else's stress. But with Imani's Place, it's predominantly for Black women.
So BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Right.
However, we also have like a lot of Caucasian women coming to us, because I think domestic violence is a universal problem, right? So we just don't, we're not only accepting Black or Indigenous people, we're kind of open, but what is different for us, or what makes us special, is the fact that we've incorporated, you know, that will, I would say, cultural programming, right, that caters to people of color or to the Indigenous people. For example, if you come to the shelter, we have hair extension for Black girls, and I believe you would not see that in a traditional shelter. We have ethnic food, right? Because I feel also that food is a good way to heal, right? So regardless, I feel like even though you're going through issues, if you're able to still, if you're still able to enjoy what you used to enjoy when you weren't, you know, in a certain situation, I think it would help you heal better. So that's why we'll make sure. I sometimes I ask the women, what would you like to see? What are you missing? You know, is there something that you would like to do here that you were not able to do? For instance, we had to buy smudging kit because we had like Indigenous people at the house, and you know they have a tradition where they smudge. We had to get that, so they have time to go do their smudging. So we encourage people any way that would kind of hasten your healing and help you sustain that healing. We're there with you.
So there's that inclusivity, and also like there's not a one size fits all for healing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So that's why we speak to our clients. We understand what they need, and we kind of provide services tailored to their specific needs.
And do you offer services for, you know, friends or family of survivors as well, like group or family counseling, therapy?
So right now we don't offer the group counseling or therapy for friends and family. However, we have workshops that's open to everyone, and when you come in, you will learn things that you're supposed to be doing to support.
That's awesome. I think that that's like a thing as well, because people always say that, oh, why didn't you come to me? Like, why didn't you? And it's almost like a victim blaming, because it's like they're going through it. you know, maybe thinking about how you're going to feel about how they came to you with their trauma is not the priority at this juncture.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that because for so long there's kind of been a stigma on talking, especially within the Black community, talking about abuse. A lot of, you know, hush hush, like keep it at home, keep it within the family, don't tell people what you're going through, like just smile in public and then deal with it in private kind of thing, or just take it to the church, take it to God only, like that's what you should be doing. Is that enough? Is that what's kind of keeping us back from being fully able to support one another and feel comfortable enough to like reach out?
I believe that plays a huge role in cases going unreported, right? Because we as Black people, we operate like a system of secrecy, right? Where we feel like it's a small community. If I were to tell this person about my problem, it's going to go tell the next person and the next person, and they're going to look at me a certain way and all the judgments would come, right? So I think we need to break out of that and come rather from a place of support. You know, instead of coming from a place of judgment, let's try from a place of support, because we only have ourselves, right? So if people from other cultures are doing it and getting the help that they deserve, I think we also deserve this kind of support, right? Because we all live in Canada together, right? And if the government is helping Asian people, for instance, to go through trauma, why wouldn't a Black person get that same level of support? So I know it's good to pray, right? But prayer doesn't do everything. If you need counseling, don't put prayer in place of counseling. And even the Bible says wisdom is profitable to direct, right? So I think physical things should be done. Spiritual things should be done as well. So I don't think you need one approach to overcome this. I think we need both, right? And also some people in the Black community, maybe because of the way they carry themselves or the way they talk about their partners outside to other people, because they want, you know, other people to feel like they have this Hollywood marriage, everything is going well for them, you know, those are fairy tales. Like, I feel people should be real, face reality, and tell someone that this is what I'm going through. One person cannot know everything. We all need each other. And you never know what counsel that person is going to give you. It just might help you out of your situation, right? So I think we should be more open with our problems. And even if you feel like, if you say it in the Black community, everyone is going to know, get a counselor from another race. It's important that you heal yourself. Talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be your mom, your sister, your friend. That's why counselors exist. They help you through these kind of issues.
And that's why workshops exist as well.
Exactly.
Yes. I do kind of want to go back to the education program as well. Incorporating that in part of the healing process. Like, why was it so important for you to not just have the counseling, but to have these things that, you know, will actually help you when you're on your feet again, get back into the world and be an independent person and feel empowered as well?
You said it. It's all part of the empowerment process, right? Once you're healed, what's next? Right? So that's why we ask people, do you want to go back to school? If you want to go back to school, we're going to help you with that. Do you want to work? If you want to work, we're going to help you with that. Because they normally say that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. We want to occupy them as much as possible, engage them, because we don't want them having flashbacks or going through, you know, thinking about what they've been through in the past, right? So we're trying to fill that void, but with things that are positive, right? So by the time you're healed completely, we want you to be able to also have something that you're doing. Right? Because, you know, this is Canada. Nobody just sits at home and money comes to you. You have to work. You have to, you know, do your quota. So that's why we're encouraging them, because we also feel like these women are role models to their kids, right? So if we don't empower them, what's going to happen to the next generation?
Yeah.
Education is very important.
Yes. Education is key. Now you did mention children as well. And in that scenario, how, like, does it work with a mother and child coming to the shelter and needing a place to stay? So, yeah.
Yes, we have kids at the shelter too. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's just due to different family dynamics too, right? Like if someone is fleeing violence and they have kids, they're not going to leave their kid behind, right? Like if you're abusing me, what would you do to my child if I'm not there?
Yeah.
So women always bring their kids, and sometimes their pets get abused too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a all-inclusive.
All-inclusive.
And there's no age limit as well.
So for the shelter, we're taking from 18 and upwards. That's if you're coming as a single person, you have to be 18 and over. But if you're coming with a mom, then no, we don't have like
at least you have a guardian. Yeah. So what would you say makes Imani's place different from other women's shelters?
First off, the fact that we serve the BIPOC community, because we've seen people come to the shelter and they've given us stories about how they were treated at other shelters. And I'm not trying to talk down any shelter. I'm just saying what I've heard from my clients. For example, we had a woman that came to the shelter. She is from, you know, the eastern part of Africa. And, you know, they have big hair, you know. And she told me when she went to the shelter staff to ask for a shampoo, she got like a little tiny, you know, the sample bottle of the shampoo. And she got like, it was almost done. That's what they give to her and her daughter to wash their hair, right? Like, like, how do you even work with that, you know? And the same day, you know, a Caucasian person went to the shelter staff to ask for the shampoo, and they got a full-size bottle shampoo.
So microaggression.
Just microaggression, right? And another thing too that I feel that the shelter staff need to learn about Black people, I don't think they intentionally want to be bad to Black people. I think they just need to understand us. You know, for instance, when we talk, people feel we're loud, we're aggressive, you know? But it's just the way that we grew up. You know, some cultures, they like to talk on the top of their voice. So if they want to make their points, if they want to make their voice heard, they think like, oh, when I increase my voice, they're going to hear me. You know, but the shelter staff might take this for aggression, and then that would be a strike against this client. You know, so we have the understanding. We know that even though we are all from Africa, I'm talking about Black people, maybe the Caribbean and the Africa, we still know that there are differences between us. Somebody from Kenya has a different culture with somebody from Ghana. You know, so we make room and accommodations for all of this to understand people or individuals for, you know, their culture and who they are. Right? So we're not like a one-size-fits-all type of shelter. Right, so we have all these cultural things going, and we also, when we do our workshops, we bring, you know, people from different ethnic groups to come and, you know, present something to the women, and that way these women are understanding other people's culture too, because Canada is about diversity and inclusion, right?
That's actually interesting because, you know, you're in a space where you're trying to get away from a form of abuse, and then now you're having to battle certain microaggressions or just the lack of understanding, let's say, of your cultural differences and what you may require just to be a person, like just to be the human within the body that you have.
Exactly.
Like, and to feel that that's like missing in a space where you're just trying to heal as well and like gather yourself up again. That's hard. That can knock someone down even more.
Yeah, they get re-victimized.
Yeah.
They get re-victimized, and, you know, I don't think that's fair to the client, because they see the shelter as a place of safety.
Yeah.
So don't re-victimize me. Don't make me remember all the things that I'm running from. You know, sometimes I've heard about a situation where someone went to a shelter, a black girl went to a shelter, and she felt like isolated. No one wants to talk to her. She would be at the dinner table by herself, and she was escaping the sex trade, right? So when she saw the way people were treating her at the shelter, she took her bags and went back to the industry. Is that what we're trying to do to people? We're trying to help them out of that, not to send them right back to where they're coming from. So we take that very important. Like we try to make sure that, you know, there's no room for microaggression, right? Because I also noticed from what I've heard from people that when it comes to black people asking for stuff, they feel like they're undeserving and they don't get this access to the kind of support or services that is due to them, right? Just because, you know, they feel like, oh, you don't deserve this, but other people in the shelter can get it.
There's that extra added like bit of self-worth as well that just comes from how society has been set up,
Right.
which is so unfortunate. So what other resources are available to people who, you know, are just trying to figure out how they can help themselves, essentially?
So there's a lot of resources on the government website too. When you Google domestic violence or human trafficking, there's a lot of resources on the government website. They can call 211-311 and they would get, you know, they can ask for whatever resources they're looking for. We have a hotline too. Our hotline is 1-800-507-6860. When you call, if you're looking for anything, we would help you find what you're looking for. And there's assaulted women hotline. There's a couple of hotlines that you can call actually, and each of these shelters have their own hotline, crisis line that you can call.
So usually just on the website as well that you can look up. Interesting that you mentioned Assaulted Women's Helpline, because it found that between October 1st and December 31st of 2020, the helpline fielded 20,334 calls compared to the 12,352 over the same period of the previous year.
That's correct.
Like we can't ignore the impact the pandemic played on household dynamics in general.
Yes.
And then how that then related to more abuse and people calling into the hotline a lot more. Like in your experience?
Yes, so when COVID happened, I think our calls went up 40%, because there was a lot of women looking for a safe place, you know, because normally when people live with their partners and they're being abused, you know, sometimes the partner can leave home and go hang out with his friends and the woman has some peace, right? But when they put on the stay-home order, right, and you know, everyone was still uncertain about what was going on with the pandemic. We didn't really know what was happening, but now you have a man, a woman, and even kids at home. Everybody's, you know, the same space. And you know the stress that can come from having children, you know, and the man too, this time there's no place of release for him. So what would he do? He would put all the aggression on the woman, right? So I think the pandemic played like a big role in cases of domestic violence, because like I said, we got like 40% increase in crisis calls.
It's so scary, especially because of the uncertainty of the pandemic as well. Like we were still trying to deal with how many lockdowns there were and being switched in and out, and then also the number of cases continuing to rise, and you're trying to make sure that people are safe within the shelter as well, but the number of calls and the requirement for help is increasing as well.
Yes.
Like how were you able to manage it within the shelter, like during lockdown especially?
So we did get the calls, and we were able to take in the women that we were able to take in. For other women, we just refer them to other shelters. And at the point, most of the shelters were full.
Yeah.
And we had to open waiting lists, right? Because everywhere was full. What can we do? Like, we were just doing our best, and that's why we continue to call on the government to help with affordable housing, because, you know, domestic violence or human trafficking is becoming a pandemic or a crisis of its own. So there needs to be a lot more to be done.
And I was actually going to bring up that there have been so many calls on the government, especially when it comes to affordable housing. Because I think for a lot of people, when they think affordable housing, they're probably thinking, oh, like people just want like free houses not to work for it. But then it's also these cases where, well, when the shelters are booked up, how are you then able to help people who need it the most?
At a point, they had to start sending people to the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were vouchers. Some shelters had vouchers where they send people to the hotel. For some reason, we didn't get those vouchers, but yeah, I think that's how they were able to go through. You had to deal with it, but for us, we just had to create a waiting list.
It's sad. It's sad that it gets to that point, and it's sad that it's often it's not talked about as much. And I don't want to say like not taken seriously, but it just feels like it's like, oh, well, that can be on the back burner for a little bit, or oh, we don't need to bring that up, or oh, it's an uncomfortable discussion to have to talk about the fact that people go through this, that there are people in 2021 who are still fleeing from human trafficking, who are still fleeing from abusive situations that are still going on, even within Canada. I think a lot of people think that that's like a not here, so out of sight, out of mind kind of a situation, but it's happening here as well.
It's happening, and it's only a matter of time before it gets close to those people. Because it can be your sister, it can be your best friend, you know? It can be your sister's friend, you know? So I feel people should take it more seriously, especially when you're dealing with, you know, people's emotions. Because a lot of people have died because of abuse, domestic violence. Right? So it's not something to be taken lightly at all. I know sometimes if it doesn't affect you or impact you directly, then you may not be that interested, but I feel like we live in Canada together, and I feel we have, you know, we should, you know, go through things together. Let us have this mutual understanding that what affects one affects all, right? So I think that's a better way for us to start to deal with this kind of issues, even though they're kind of subtle, but it's real and it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And even with the rise of technology and social media now, especially with human trafficking, there's a lot of ways to disseminate information quicker to protect other people. It's sad to say, but I get on Twitter and I see like a lot of women who've had experiences where they're like, oh, it's so-and-so place, like this is what they're doing, this is a tactic that they're putting out to like try and lure you in, or even over Instagram you get like DMs of you want to make money quickly. And it's like it's the same target of make money, but now using these different mediums to prey on innocent people and people who are not as aware, or who don't know what signs to look out for to protect themselves. So in your experience, like what are some signs that you can kind of protect yourself from not just human trafficking, but even like domestic abuse, or like signs that, you know, you want to know to then like handle the situation for yourself and get the help that you need?
So talking about social media, I would say unless you're a business person, right? And if you're a business person, then you need to have like a dedicated social media expert handling your account, right? If you're not a business person, only have friends that you know or that are within your circle as friends on your social media, right? Because if a random person comes to say hello to you and then you're replying back to them, you don't know this person, right? And that's where you can find people getting into trouble, right? Because when you don't know someone, I don't think you're supposed to be chatting with them, especially when we know that a lot of people hide under social media. Like people would chat up 14-year-old kids on social media, and this could be a grown-up man of 50 telling this little kid that he's 15, right? So parents beware.
You know, honestly, because like this is a PSA essentially, because it's happening. It's happening. I mean, I think it's Ryan Reynolds. Blake Lively is a celebrity and an actress, and she works with a foundation that gets the IP addresses of people who are preying on children. And it sets it up so that they can't, like, the IP address is then sent to any job application that that person is putting in. If they're to be working around children, it's like, hey, this is what they've done using this IP address.
Sure.
But not everyone has that, like, ability to do that technology and stuff, and so some people slip through the cracks, you know. And to think that it's happening on devices and platforms that a lot of us use it innocently, you know, we'll post a nice picture on Instagram for our friends and families to see, but behind that there are others who are using it for more insidious reasons, and you don't really know unless you track the IP address, of course, unless you try and actually track and find where this person's coming from, to actually find out that they are a 50-year-old acting like a 15-year-old.
It's true. And another thing is, this is happening even in, like, under our nose in schools. So kids from even grade 4 are being trafficked in Canada, right? And I heard a story of someone, and you know what's sad? Some of these things that happen is, it happens within, you know, their friends, like kids trafficking kids.
No.
Yes. I heard a story where I think she was in grade 5 or so, and her friend is involved with some group of boys, right? And they would normally give her a parcel to go deliver, you know, to, you know, some people in the neighborhood. And she would always go innocently, you know, I think she was 12 years old. And she would go deliver this package, right? But unknowingly to her, she was being videoed. They were videoing her, taking her photos, and those things in the package was actually drugs, illicit drugs, right? A child.
Gave another child.
Because adults use them, right? Because a child can trust a child. If you come as an adult to talk to a child to do something, they may not do it, but if their classmates tell them, they would do it,
and
you know?
Even just peer pressure as well, like we know
Exactly.
It's a thing, it's real, yeah.
Exactly. And then they will make this child go deliver this stuff, and, you know, the next stage up from there was they would take this child in a car and go knock on the door and ask her, go to this house. Anything they ask you to do, do it. They're selling her to a man. And if she ever objects, they will show her the pictures. Like, this is you delivering these drugs. What do you think your principal is going to say about this? What do you think your parents is going to say about this? Right? So they kind of tie them in that way. Some of them would even threaten to kill their parents if they were to say anything. And once you tell a child that you're going to kill their parents, trust me, she's going to stay mute for the rest of her life, because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her parents. And what's still not something that, you know, came from her, you know, because she's going to feel guilty. Oh, they're killing my parents because of what I did, you know. So I think parents should look out for kids too. You know, if you find your kids being really withdrawn and not being herself anymore, I think it's time to have a talk with her, right? And if you find your kids having designer stuff all of a sudden,
where are you getting the money to do
yes,
this?
really expensive stuff, all of a sudden, it's time to have a talk with her. And also try to know your friends, the circle that their friends, who they hang out with, right? Because that's the only way you would know what's going on with them, right? And or if they start getting angry for no reason, all of a sudden, like, just watch out for those things that they don't normally do, that they start to do, right? And just dig deeper to find out what the problem is. And don't do that in don't do it in an aggressive way.
Like
just
telling them off.
Yeah, just try to be as calm as possible and try to be a support for them. Like, I have a daughter too, and I think to my daughter, I'm her best friend. Although I'm her mom, but I also come from a place of a best friend to her. And I normally humorously tell people that the day my daughter would do something, you know, like they should actually go over the board to do something, I will be the first person she would call. You know, so don't be that mom that your daughter even got pregnant and she's like, oh my God, I can't tell my mom, she's gonna kill me. No, we have to be supportive to our kids and be in their lives. Know what she's doing you're not stalking her, you're just trying to protect her.
Because then, there's like the kids who are like, oh, my mom tracks my phone and like checks in all my messages and like doesn't give me any privacy. But then it's also the other side of, you hear these stories as a parent and you're like, I don't ever want my child to ever be in a situation like that, and I won't be able to help.
So if you let them know what's happening around them, at least create that awareness, So when you check their phone, they know exactly why you're doing it.
That's another thing, because some parents feel that it's not appropriate to talk to your kids about the bad things in the world, like having the talk about racism. You don't want to do it too early because it's inappropriate for your child, but when they go to school and preschool, they're experiencing microaggressions already, or this situation, human trafficking, or even abuse as well.
Whatever you don't teach your child, someone else will teach them, right? It could be YouTube teaching them. It could be their classmates teaching them. So I feel the best approach for me, whatever I want my child to know, I want them to know it from me. Because I don't trust what the other person is going to teach them or how they're going to teach them, right? So I don't think it's too early to talk about anything to your children because they're yours. And you want to nurture them in a way or train them up in a way that tomorrow you'll be proud of them and you'll be proud of what you did with them. I don't want to have a child that I don't know. Because when the classmates start teaching them stuff or the schoolmates start teaching them stuff, you're going to have a total stranger in your house.
And then they go through the teenage years.
That's another story.
That's another thing. But I mean, preparation is always the best thing. Always being aware, and not in a, oh, I'm too fearful to do anything in life kind of way, but in more of a, if, God forbid, anything does happen, at least I'm aware of certain things that I can do, certain places I can go to receive the support that I need. Yes,
that's important. That's very important. Like in my case, if I knew there was a shelter, I would have been gone. I wouldn't spend 8 years. So I think it's good to open the eyes of your kids, right? Like you know them better, so you know the best approach to take. But as long as you're delivering the message to them, right, deliver it in a way that they would understand and that would not cloud their judgment.
And as you say, education is important. And
Very.
That's part of education as well.
Very.
Sharing those stories. I remember that there was the journalist that kind of unearthed a case in Nigeria, Oloture. It's the film that's been on Netflix now for a bit. And I think for a lot of people, they felt that, this is the first time that we're getting such a raw account of what a lot of people have an idea that it's going on. But it's always seen as like, oh, that's just that person that made the wrong decision in life and decided to go down this road.
Judgment.
Yes, exactly. Always coming from a judgmental place of victim blaming, like, oh, is money that important to you that you would put yourself in this position? And it's like, think about it. If you come from a family or a place where people generally are in poverty for their entire lives, and you're saying, I don't want to do that, and then someone that you trust, a friend, comes to you and says this is an option for you, someone I know, or I myself, or my cousin, or someone that they trust within this story has done it and it was great for them, and they send this back and they do this and they make this much money, it's hard for you to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm good.
I'll pass.
Yeah, right? Because it's being sold to you in such a glamorous way. And if you don't have the education to know that, hey, this might be a trap, it's like a pyramid scheme. You wonder why so many people get stuck in pyramid schemes. Like, we know what a pyramid scheme is, but then there's so many people falling for the quote unquote trap of it.
It's true.
Them receiving as much judgment as, victims or survivors of human trafficking as well. Because it's something that, oh, well, they're working hard for their money. But because people don't see it as working hard for your money, meanwhile they're going through all this trauma and abuse, it's not respected as much to fight for them, for the victims or the survivors as well. Would you?
It's true. And I think that's where knowledge, it's important, education, you know, because there are some things that's been normalized in Africa, for instance, you know. People see it as normal things because their mom has done it, their aunt has done it, their big friends have done it. So, you know, like, this is normal. But I still believe that if you know better, you will do better. So if these people are able to, you know, now get that education that they need, then they would start to question things, right? Because, like you said, it came from a place of trust, right? Like, if I have an aunt that comes to me to say, oh, you know what, it's all perspective, you know, depending on how they sell you the story, that's how you're going to buy it, right? So if they say, because some people, I've actually heard people talk about prostitution in a way that you feel like, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad, because they'll be like, oh, you've dated 3-4 boys already.
You did it for free.
You did it for free. So supposing somebody pays you to do it, isn't that better?
I've literally heard
You've heard that too.
I've heard it, yes.
You know, so again, perspective and how you were sold, how you were being sold. So I think we as a society, we owe it to the younger generation to educate them on important things like this, right? The fact that we did not have the education doesn't mean that we're going to let the younger ones go without the education. So I think we should start. That's why, you know, we create awareness through Imani's Place. Is really important, because what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, so we want to also kind of continue to create this awareness in our community, so a lot of people can open their eyes to what is going on, and they know how to guide themselves and their families and their friends.
Yeah, and that's probably the most important thing as well, is that if there is no real awareness, people won't necessarily know as much on how to protect themselves and how to, as you said, guide their families and guard their families as well. So just before we go and wrap up for today, how can folks support Imani's Place? How can they support in any way that it might be needed?
Yes, so you can go to our website, is www.imanisplace.org. So imanisplace.org. We have a GoFundMe as well. I think the link is on the website. Yeah, we're always looking, we're open to donations, because right now we are self-funded. We need a letter in order for us to be able to continue to help these women. We just 2 rooms to the basement, so for emergency and crisis, because we're stage 2 housing. So that means the women who stay with us, they stay for a minimum of 3 months, because we want them to be empowered before they leave. They can stay up to a year, but a minimum of 3 months. But we also saw there was a need for, you know, emergency situation and crisis beds. So we opened 2 beds in the basement where we can just let people come in for 1 day, 1 night, 1 week, you know. So yeah, we are constantly looking for donations to pay the staff, or, you know, even to get feminine products, ethnic food, you know, the workshops that we do. All of these things cost money. Creating awareness, Facebook ads, all of this costs money. So if anybody wants to contribute, you can go to www.imanisplace.org. You can call our hotline on 1-800-507-6860. And we'll be there to answer your call.
And you take like donations, and you mentioned feminine products, which is always such a hot button topic because it's, why is there a tax? But anyway, another conversation. And even just like food as well. Like, do you take those kinds of donations too, if not able to give monetary donations? Yes,
we take food. Yeah, we take food, and actually we're looking for furnitures and gym equipment for the basement right now. So if people want to donate that, we're open to that as well. And yes, ethnic food. Feel free to drop off the yams, the breadfruit. Yeah.
I'm hungry thinking about that now. But yeah, thank you so much again, Lisa, for joining us on the Chat Up Show and for sharing your story and sharing what you do at Imani's Place. Again, that's imanisplace.org for more information, and the hotline as well, numbers on the website too. So thank you for being on the Chat Up Show today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And that concludes the show for today. As always, You know you can keep up with us on the Gbkm network by listening and watching live 24/7 at www.gbkm.tv or www.gbkm.fm. You can also download our free app. Just search Gbkm in the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. Sorry there. It's available for all iOS and Android devices. So make sure you download our free app now so you'll be notified every time we go live. And you can take us on the go with you if you want to listen to any past shows. Check out our upcoming show schedule. It's all right there on the app. You can also continue to watch us on Facebook and YouTube at Gbkm Network, where you can like, share, comment, and subscribe. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Gbkm Network to keep up with what's going on right here at Gbkm. You can also follow me, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at TIS_Liz_O. And with that, I will see you same time, same place next week. Take care.
Do you want to be your own boss and make income or extra income with flexible schedule? Welcome to Gbkm Courier. Gbkm Courier works as a marketplace platform connecting customers who need something
Good afternoon, live from Toronto on the Gbkm network. This is the Chat Up Show, the show where we catch you up with a chat up of our weekly headlines. I'm your host, Elizabeth Aloyde, and I hope that you are ready to chat it up with me today. Now, as always, you know you can keep up with the Gbkm network in various ways. You can continue to listen and watch live 24/7 at www.gbkm.tv or www.gbkm.fm, where you can also like, share, comment, all that good stuff, catch up on any past shows you may have missed, check out our upcoming show schedule so you don't miss out on another show again. You can also download our free app that's available for all iOS and Android devices. This is just search the Gbkm app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. You will get the same features as on our live digital web radio station on the app. So you can watch live, listen live, comment, like, share, check out past shows, upcoming shows, all of that. Plus with the app, turn on your notifications and you will be notified every time we go live. So every time we're live on the Gbkm network, you will know and you won't have to miss out. And the best part is you can take us on the go as well. So make sure you download the free app today. You can also continue to watch us on Facebook and YouTube at Gbkm Network. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Gbkm Network to keep up with what's going on with us right here at Gbkm. Now, welcome to another week on the Chat Up Show, and I'm so excited to welcome a very special guest in studio today, a founder of Imani's Place and Imani Foundation, Lisa Obole. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you feeling today? I'm loving the yellow.
Oh, I feel good.
Good.
This is a great warm environment.